clicking start recording, and hopefully it all works out. All right, so I'll put that on YouTube. You'll get to see that later. But yeah, welcome. Welcome to CSCI 1. This isn't even me, but we can do this now. There we go. Welcome. So the reason I'm not making my presentations full screen is because I get much cooler pens this way. Like, you don't get a rainbow pen when you have full screen PowerPoint. You can just get normal ugly colors. So that's why we're doing it that way. If only I could use my tablet. But yeah, welcome to CSCI 1. You're going to get all the video, you're going to get these slides, you'll get all the code that I write, not in this class, maybe next class. You're going to get all that on Canvas, so don't worry too much about frantically taking down everything that we do. Today is going to be that standard first lecture, so I'm glad that you're here. I'm going to try and get through all the silly talk about the class stuff as fast as possible so we can actually get to some real content. But I'll first tell you about myself, maybe. That's important if you've never taken a class with me before. We'll get into the history of computer science today, so just so that we're all on the same page. And then we'll also talk about ethics, because this is a critical thinking class. We're going to talk a little bit about argumentation and like what it means to be good. So we'll get into that. But yeah, a little bit about me first. Hello, everyone. My name is Lawton Nichols. I use he, him pronouns. And I will respond to whatever you want to call me. Like, you can call me Mr. Nichols, Dr. Nichols, Professor Nichols. But honestly, I would prefer it if you just call me by my first name. Call me Lawton if you're comfortable with that. I'd appreciate it. So, yeah, I went to Fresno State, not too far away from my undergrad. I got a computer science degree. And then I went to UCSB, UC Santa Barbara, for grad school. And I got 2 computer science degrees there. So hopefully, among my 3 degrees, I can hopefully teach you a little bit about computer science. It's my 3rd year teaching here. And yeah, I'm having a good time. Besides teaching, I like to do other human things. Like, I like to dance, I like to play guitar, I like to rock climb. So maybe I'll see you somewhere. I'll see you at the gym or something one day, if you do that too. I have the most wonderful cat. His name is Lonzo. He's named after Alonzo Church, who is the PhD advisor of somebody you've probably heard, if you haven't heard of Alonzo Church, Alan Turing. So he was Alan Turing's PhD advisor at Princeton. So I dedicated my cat to Alonzo Church because he had a lot to do with my PhD. And of course I hugged him and he scratched my writing hand right before I came here, so this will be fun. But I still love him very much. I also have 2 unnamed moss balls, so that's a little bit about me. We live in weird times, so thank you in advance for putting up with me throughout this semester. We'll get through it together, I promise. We'll make it work. So yeah, that's all I wanted to say about me. Let's talk a little bit about the class. You are required to read the syllabus. Anything that I don't say, it's on there and it will apply to you, so please read it. But I'll go through probably the more important things that you care about a bit fast. Okay? So, this is an in-person class. You're required to be here. I am recording the video for your help, not so that you can miss class. So I'm required to take attendance. We'll do that in a little bit. Also, here's my drop policy. If you miss 3 consecutive classes, I will drop you. Okay? So that's the idea. Of course, if you get sick or if something comes up that's very important and excuse-worthy, just let me know beforehand, and I'll excuse your absence. It won't apply to this rule or whatever. Okay? So, pretty lenient there. Yeah, this is CSCI 1. This is a 3-unit non-major GE class. It's not supposed to be the hardest class in the world, but, I mean, you're going to have to do some work, a decent amount of it, so prepare. I want to set some expectations. If you've never programmed before, computer science is about programming. Half of the class is going to be about programming, and it's a weird new way of thinking if you've never done it before. I'll help you through it, but it's going to take you feeling a little weird in your brain for a little while, and I want you to get ready for that, and it will be fun, I promise. So yeah, programming is just a new way of thinking. The work, especially the essays, we're sadly required to write essays in this class, but the work can get a bit tedious if you wait until the very last minute. If you've taken a computer science class before, you know that you cannot wait until the last minute if you want a good grade, right? So you will learn that one way or another. I just wanted to shout out that at you right now. And then finally, depending on whether or not how you feel about this, this class is not at all about like taking down a bunch of information, memorizing it all, and that's how you do well on tests. You can't really memorize answers. Computer science is kind of like art in that regard, where like there's a million different ways to write a program, and they can be beautiful. Okay, so yeah, you don't have to memorize a whole lot. I'm just going to teach you a way of thinking, and that will take you pretty far. Okay, I don't want to scare you away. I just want to say this so that like you don't think you can get away with doing nothing and get an A still. But I want to be here to help you as much as possible. Maybe you've gotten on Discord already. You've seen the nice things that other students are saying, all the discussions. I'll be here to help you as much as possible. Your peers will be here to help you as much as possible. And we will all get through it together. Okay? Yeah, do we have any questions about anything? Just yell at me if you do. Raise your hand, whatever you want. But yeah, just shout out at me. I want to teach my classes like we're having a conversation. Question? Yeah. Yeah, there is. I'll show it to you if you haven't seen it yet. We have our own class Discord. It's really cool. One thing that's really important because we're going to do stuff on computers. If you need a better computer, the school checks out laptops from the library. Look into that. I have a little resources page on our Canvas if you need that. Also, a better internet connection. The school is renting out, I think they're called MiFi routers, which connect to the cellular network, some cellular network, and give you a faster internet connection if the one at your house is slow. So please take advantage of these. They're here for you if you need them. I wanted to tell you about that. Let's talk a little bit about the class before we get into more later. So yeah, this class is about a few important things. The first and probably the biggest thing in my mind is I want to teach you computational thinking, which is going to teach you how to program in every possible programming language. So that's probably the most important thing to me as a computer scientist for you to learn. And then along the way, we're going to learn critical thinking because this is a critical thinking class. So we're going to learn how to write good arguments. We're going to learn what it means to think logically and when things can go wrong, like fallacies, when your arguments are incorrect. We're going to have a little bit of some debates in class so that we can exercise our brain. And all of these things, they're going to come together and probably make us better computational thinkers and therefore programmers. And that's kind of the whole point. Okay? So that's where we're going in the class. Along the way, we'll also talk about social issues and just normal issues in computer science. There's not a whole lot to do in like the core computer science classes. Maybe you're a computer science major. You've taken some CSCI classes already. We don't really talk about like horrible ethical issues in those classes. We're mainly just programming. This is the place for that. So we'll talk a little bit about that there, and you'll get some history. You'll know why things have changed the way they have changed. And so that'll be fun. Yeah, that's what the class is about. Again, just shout out at me if you have any questions about anything as we go. This class is really for everyone. These bullets essentially are average to be anybody who wants to take the class. If you want to become a better programmer, you'd like to be better at computational thinking, you'd like to be better at problem solving, this is going to be a great class for you. You're going to have plenty of opportunities to learn that kind of stuff. If you just need a critical thinking class and you thought this one sounded cool, this is also for you. I want to teach you computer science, and we're going to have fun doing it. I can promise you that. And then also, if maybe you're a major, you're computer science, electrical engineering, computer engineering major already, and you're just interested in thinking about the broader scope of all these things that you've been learning in your classes already, rather than just writing programs and calling it a day, this class is also for you. Okay, so there's a little bit for everybody, and I think that you will enjoy it. So I'm excited that you're here. All right. So, all right, let's go to the thing that you're probably most interested about. Let's go to the syllabus. So to unlock all that, we all found this, right? You got to go to the course modules page. I'm requiring you to cast your eyes on all these pages in order to unlock other things, right? Complete all items, just look at them. But the syllabus is here. And let me open that up and go to the place where we all want to be, the grade breakdown. And please yell at me also if like there's something that says like fall 2022 or something on the syllabus. I tried to change them all, but who knows. So here is probably the place that you care most about. Okay, so let's talk about the grading breakdown. There's a few different kinds of assignments in this class. The first you've probably seen already. That's already out. It's called a check-in survey. I'm going to give you a check-in survey every week, and it's a very easy 5% of your grade if you do them all. And that's just me forcing you to psychoanalyze yourself, figuring out like what's going on in your mind, if things are going well, things are going badly, how you can improve. I think it works out well for both of us because you get to figure out how to get better, and I get to see what you're struggling on. So please do all the check-in surveys. It's a very easy 5% of your grade. This is also a critical thinking class that transfers to both UCs and CSUs. It is the UC's fault that we have to write 6,000 words this semester. So mentally prepare for that. If you're not big on essays, that'll be a good chunk of your grade, 30%. Okay? From written essays. I'm not happy about it either, being a computer science professor and grading essays, but we're going to have to write 6,000 words this semester. Okay? So just get ready for that, get in that mindset. In addition to essays, it's kind of going to be half of the assignments in this class are going to be essays, the other half are going to be programming assignments. That's how we can get through all of our course requirements. Okay, so another 30% of your grade comes from programming assignments. Those will be out most weeks. Okay, you'll have something to do. I'm going to start you with a programming language called Scratch. We'll talk about that next lecture, and then we will transfer, or we will move into Python later. Maybe you've heard of that language. That's probably the most popular starter language. So you will know Python by the end of this class. But we're going to start with a language called Scratch. Okay? If you've already taken a computer science class and you already know how to, or you just already know how to program for some reason, I will give you different programming assignments for the first half of the class. You're not going to learn Scratch because that would probably not be very entertaining to you. So I want to make sure that you're at the level that you need to be. Okay? So you'll get a different assignment if you've already programmed a little bit. Just look out for that. I'll tell you about that when I release the first assignment. Grade breakdown, let's keep on going there. So 30% programming assignments, 30% essays, 5% check-in surveys. We will have one midterm about the middle of the semester. So we'll try to make it like week 8 because there's 16 weeks of classes plus a finals week, right? And then 20% will be the final exam at the end of the semester. So that'll be how your grade is broken down. Okay? Standard scale and all that. I like to give at least a letter grade's worth of extra credit throughout the semester, so look out for that if you're interested. Let's see here. There's also a book that I recommend. I don't require you to buy the book, but where is that? This one, A Gift of Fire. If you buy this book, you will understand the flow of my lectures, and it will probably help you write your essays. So consider buying it if you'd like, but I'm not going to require you to read it or anything. It'll help you with the essays and studying for exams and things. Okay, so that's the textbook, and then finally, final exam date. So I hope I read this off the table correctly, but this is when I will be giving the final to you. It's going to be Wednesday, the Wednesday of finals week, which is the 17th, May 17th. From 4 to 5:50. So you just show up at class time. We get an hour and 50 minutes to take our finals at this college. Okay? So nothing on the Monday. You just show up on the Wednesday of finals week and you take the final, and that's it. Okay? Any questions about any of that? Probably the most important slide to you for the day, right? Is that clear enough? All right. Next, what do we got? I'm pretty lenient when it comes to late submissions, as long as it's not late essays. I will accept late programming assignments and check-in surveys up to the last day of instruction. So that's the Friday before finals week, so you're welcome. I'm letting you turn in things late if you don't get to them in time normally. But the caveat there is the second your assignment is late, I'm taking 50% off. Okay, so that's the tug and pull. Hopefully that's fair to you. You get 50% is much, much better, right, than a 0. So consider doing assignments. If you don't get them in on time, consider making them up. So that's my late submission policy. I will not, though, accept late essays because I do not want to be slammed with a million essays, like thousands and thousands of words to grade right before the final comes out, and I'm trying to make it, okay? So I'll accept everything but essays. All right, so get those in on time. Okay, so that's late submissions. The next policy that I have is about due dates. So you've probably seen on the check-in survey, at least, that's due this Friday at 5:30. Where is that? Easy to see, I guess. Let's click it. Hey, it's due the 13th at 5:30. So all of the assignments in this class, except for the check-in surveys, which will be due at 5:30, will be due at 5 p.m. So I want you to plan for that, okay? I think it'll make sense once you start doing them why I have this policy. Things go wrong very easily when you're programming, okay? You have technical issues, and I just want to be awake when you have those technical issues. So that's why I'm making all the due dates for the assignments in this class, whatever day they're due, at 5 p.m. Okay, so plan for that. Plan to not turn things in late. It's going to be 5 p.m., okay? So that I'm awake when things go wrong and I can help you, give you short extensions or something, okay? So all the due dates in this class will be at 5 p.m., not midnight, not anything else, okay? Just keep that in mind. However, if one of these things applies to you, I will extend your due dates for every assignment. Not exams, of course, but assignments. I call them my equity exceptions, and I hope you think that they are fair and that the students who these things apply to deserve this extra time. So if you are a student who works, if you work at least half time, at least 20 hours a week, school doesn't count, of course. If you're taking 20 units, that's your fault. Some of us need to work, right? If you work at least half time, I will extend your due dates for every assignment in this class by 7 hours. So you can stay up late, get things in. It'll be due at midnight for you, all the assignments, okay? If you work at least full-time, at least 40 hours a week, or you do something that is the equivalent of a full-time job, like you care for a child, then I will extend your due dates by 15 hours. So you can either stay up late or wake up early and get your assignments in, okay? So you deserve that extra time, and I have that baked into my syllabus, those extensions for you. So please talk to me, send me a Discord message, talk to me after class or something, and I can get you on that list so that you have the extension that you deserve. Okay? So those are my due date policies. Any questions about any of that? Still good? All right. I will be dropping your 3 lowest programming assignments. So if you do poorly on a couple, it'll be like they never happened. Okay? Pretty lenient about those because you're just starting out, most of us. Okay? Finally, Discord. Cool. Okay, so let's go to Discord. We have a Discord for this class. Click the invite link. I would like you to use that for discussion, for asking questions publicly and privately. So let's go to our Discord once it installs all the updates, since I haven't double-clicked it on this computer since last semester. Probably has the new font and everything. There it goes. Okay. Let's try it. Moving at the speed of JavaScript. Let's see, is there anything I want to say while it's doing it? Okay, cool. You can do it. Hey, I got stuff to look at. But when you click our Discord invite link, it won't show you all these things. You have to go to the welcome channel, scroll up to the tippy top, click the 100 emoji, click the dog emoji to add the CSCI1 channel. Change your nickname, because I want to, if somebody starts spamming, I want to know, who to punish. So please make your nickname on our server something that includes at least your last name, and then also add your pronouns. So that's what you need to do. This will open up a lot of these channels, including the CSCI1 channel. So that is that. All right, so please use Discord. I would like you to ask questions publicly when you can. Ask them in our CSCI1 channel so that everybody can see them and respond to you. It'll be great. The one thing I don't want you to do publicly is share your answers to questions, share a ton of code, something like that. That's of course not fair. That's giving everybody the answer. So don't do that. For those kinds of questions, I want you to privately ask them to me. You can send me a direct message on Discord. You could probably just right-click my name, click message, should appear. I don't think I can message myself, and that's why you don't see it. Okay? So that's that. You can always privately ask me questions, but please publicly ask them as much as you can so that, when I'm asleep, somebody might be there to answer it for you. Okay, so there's that. I strongly encourage you to use Discord to contact me instead of sending me a Canvas message or sending me an email, because I think you can imagine what my inbox looks like as a professor. It's very hard to get through it to see what you're trying to send me. It's very easy for me to see, like, oh, I have to respond to this one student right here. They've sent me a message. See that? It's very much easier on Discord. So please use that as much as you can. Please get on it. All right, so that's Discord. Are we good with that? You all able to get on it? Everybody who tried already. All right, we'll click out of that for now. Let's see here. Yeah, just use your judgment when you're asking questions. Finally, please come to office hours. My office hours will be on Zoom and in person. Depends on the day. So just check Canvas for that schedule. It's up here. Lawton's office hours. I'm actually going to have office hours after our class on Monday and Wednesday. So you just follow me to my office if you want. So here is the green portion. Those will be my office hours when I plan on having them. So Mondays right after this class, Wednesdays right after this class, after my CSCI 40 class on Tuesday, and then Friday 4 to 5-ish, 4 to 4:50. And if you want to come to the in-person ones, you can just follow me to my office. It's this room. I'll also just be on Zoom too, so you can click the Zoom link and come to those, so that you don't have to come to campus if you want to come to my office hours on Tuesday or something. Just click the office hours Zoom link. I'll let you in, and we can talk. So please come to those. This schedule might change, so just check it before you come. There might be some meetings that I'm forced to go to over the semester, and that might change this. So that's when I want to have my office hours, at least. Yeah, so that's the schedule for office hours. Please show up. I would love to talk to you there. And finally, especially if you've never taken a computer science class before, I just want to talk about getting stuck and asking for help. Right? You are going to get stuck on a programming assignment. It is inevitable. All right? I want you to get unstuck. So let's pick a time period. So if you've been stuck, let's say, for half an hour, 30 minutes on a problem, and you're not sure what to do, how to solve this problem by yourself, please ask for help. Come to me, ask a public question on the Discord, come to the tutorial center. There's plenty of ways to get help. Use one of them, all right? Because I want to get you over whatever problem this is so you can get stuck on the next problem, right? That's important to me. So you're going to get stuck. I really want you to ask for help. There is no virtue in staring at your screen for 2 hours. I've done that. It's not fun, all right? Ask for help when you need it, all right? That being said, if you're stuck for 29 minutes on a problem and then have a flash of genius, that's exactly what I expect to happen, okay? So don't just keep asking questions after questions immediately. I want you to ponder, okay? That's how you learn in computer science. Okay, so 30 minutes though. Once you hit that cutoff, ask me a question. Ask somebody a question, okay? So that's what I want. All right, so I'm pretty sure that is all the logistical information that I wanted to talk about for this class. Are there any questions before we move on to other things? Still all right? Okay, because the next thing that I want to do is take attendance. And naturally, if this is a computer science class, I have made us a very special class website so we can do this and I don't have to send out a sign-in sheet or call everybody's name at the start. It's so much easier this way. I've made us a wonderful class website. It is www.lawtonsclass.com. Please go there. It will ask you to log in. It looks like this once you get there. But I have made you all accounts unless you added the class today or something. I can help you with that. But your username and your password right now are both the same thing on the class website. They are your last name, all lowercase, no hyphens, no underscores, or anything like that. No accents. Plus an underscore, plus your student ID after all that. So this might be my username, for example. You see how I'm reading that? If your last name looks something more like this, you got a hyphen, you got some accent marks, you get rid of all of those. If you have any spaces, you get rid of those too. You just put them all together. Underscore your student ID. Okay? So let me know if you're not logged in. I'm going to take attendance. You're going to click the attendance app, this take attendance button. It's not going to work yet, but I want you to all get there. Okay, so try to get on the class website, get logged in, and I'll come around and help you if you're having trouble. So I want us all to be logged in on the class website page. If you're getting there and you're just waiting, please change your password probably. That would be a good idea. But is there anyone having trouble?
What's the password?
Same as your username right now.
Oh, okay.
Username, password, same thing right now. So yeah, I'll just come around, make sure we're all in the right spot, but I'll start your attendance after we've all done the long day. Yeah, I have not started attendance. I'm waiting for everybody to log in. But this is what we're going to do at the start of class. Okay? Quite easy. Awesome. Anybody having trouble? Speak now. Oh yeah, Latin's class.
Password? I think I'm
All right, let's see. Maybe
added last week.
I gave everybody accounts on Thursday. Last Thursday. Yeah, I don't see you.
Oh, yeah, I actually did on
Okay, so now keep your last name. Let me get you in there. That's why we're doing it now. So just hang out, talk amongst yourselves as we get us all logged in, and then we'll come back. Let's see here. Oh yeah. I just have to log in on self-service, and we know that that's going to be very slow today. And if you're just chilling, maybe change your password if you haven't done that already. Dun-dun. And this is 601. Cool. All right, you should have an account now. Try that. Anybody else having trouble logging in? Yeah, but an underscore in between your last name. Yes. All right, I think we're all here, right? Anybody not logged in? We're all good. Awesome. So yeah, all the technical difficulties are done now. We can just have fun. So we'll just do this at the start of class from now on. Pretty quick. I don't have to call out names. It's very efficient. I have made this nice website for all of us. So without any further ado, let me use my fancy feature to start taking attendance. So please click any button on the attendance page and it will mark you here. I don't actually record which one you click, so feel free to say whatever you want. But that is what we're going to do at the start of class from now on. Yeah. Has everybody clicked the button? I'll give us till like 45 or something. I assume we're all there. And then once I stop the attendance, which might take a little while, I usually leave it running for a while, you'll be able to go to view my attendance and just confirm if you were wondering, did it actually go through? But only when I stop the attendance will it be visible. Okay? So, okay, has everybody clicked that you're here? Because I'm about to stop it and you will get marked not here, and then I will be forced to drop you from the class. We all clicked a button? All right, I'm going to stop it. So now, just to feel good, you can go to the View My Attendance page, and hopefully it should just be like, yeah, today at 4:33, you were marked here. Okay, so that is, yeah, that's the class website. Hopefully you enjoy it as much as I do, but that is, that's going to be the thing that we do every day at the start of class. And I'm also going to be using some of these other links as well. Okay, so yeah, let's keep on trucking then. It's time for the real lecture. Let's go through that. All right, so before we get to the history of computer science, let me talk about something that I like to do in my classes. So every study in the world has proven that you guys learn better from each other than listening to me. So I'm going to force you to get into like little small groups, which I call peer instruction groups, and I'll have you answer questions after discussing them. Okay? So that's what we're going to do a lot in this class. So get prepared for that mentally. So you'll help each other learn. It's called peer instruction. It is definitely worth it. It just every study says so. Okay, so we're going to have our first peer instruction question. It's just going to be an individual one this time, but we're going to use the ByClicker page, so you might want to go to that and get ready. But this is, if you've heard of iClickers, that's why I called it ByClicker. It's usually you have to pay like $50 for that remote thing, right, in a large class to click A, B, C, D, or E. I've made that for free for us, so you're welcome. Called it ByClicker for fun. So our first question is going to be on the next slide, and it's an in-class exercise called ICES. If you want to like abbreviate it, that's what people do. And our mascot here is the Crush, which is a bull, and I'm not sure why those names go hand in hand, but they do. So obviously our in-class exercises here at Clovis are going to be called crushed ICES, just for fun. All right, so here's what I want to do with these first questions. I want to just figure out the makeup of this class. Okay, so I'm going to start a ByClicker question. You're going to go to that page, and please click whichever button corresponds to you. I want to know your major. Let's figure out who's in this class. What is your major? Computer something, engineering, math, STEM, not STEM? Who is it in this class? What is the makeup of our peers? I'll give you, 30 seconds? I assume we're all logged in, right? Yeah, I think that's 30 now, and I think that was just as many people who said that they were here, so let's take a look. Look at us. So a lot of us, wow, are computer science or computer engineering majors. That's exciting. I'm sure a lot of you have taken a computer science class, so you'll get the more advanced programming assignments, and you'll be here to help your peers as well, so I'm excited to have you here. But there are a good chunk of us as well that are different than that. So we got some engineering majors, cool. We got some math majors, very nice. And then we have some people who are not even in a STEM major. I'm really glad that you're here because your discussions or your contributions to our discussions will really help because a lot of us live in a little computer science vacuum a lot of the time, and we're going to very much value your input. So thank you for being here. All right, so that's your major. How about this next question? We'll start a new one. Please tell me if you've ever programmed before, because half of this class is going to be about programming. Let me know how much you have done before. Maybe we're all computer science majors, but we haven't taken a computer science class yet. Who knows? That's what I want to know. Or maybe you could take over for me if I get sick one day. All right, let's take a look. Ooh, all right. So we are a bit split. So a decent chunk of us, even though a lot of us are computer science or computer engineering majors, we've never programmed before. That's great to know. Thank you. I'm glad to hear that. This is totally a class for you. I do not expect you to know how to program. I will teach you from the very basic of basic principles. Okay, some of us have programmed before, but it's been a little bit. That's fine. I'll help you get back up to speed. And then some of us, we've maybe just finished a class last semester or something. So I'm glad. Nobody could teach this class, really? So we're all very modest. All right. So yeah, thanks for playing along with that. I'll give us a lot of questions like this, and I'll have you discuss with people next to you in the future. Okay. So that is kind of how I run the class. And so now, without any further ado, let's get into a very nice and relaxing first lecture that I'm probably not even going to test you on, but I just want you to know a little bit about where we've come in the field of computer science so that we can just be on the same page. Okay? So computer science is what? The study of computation, right? And so let's talk about the very first thing that could give us computation, right? A computer is a tool that helps us perform computation. And so therefore you could argue that an abacus, which was invented 4,000, 5,000 years ago, was the first computer, right? It totally checks out as far as this definition is concerned. It's helping us do something, as helping humans do something faster, computing things. An abacus is technically the first computer, let's say. That's pretty cool. So it's been a while since we've had computing devices, right? And they've just gotten better over the years. We do have to fast forward quite a bit to get to the next major new topic. At the very start of the 1700s is when binary, you've heard of that, was first invented, and just formal logic, which you'd learn about in like a CSCI 26 kind of class, and a little bit in this class, was invented. It was invented, first of all, let me tell you a little bit about binary. We'll talk about that in much more detail later, but binary is a special kind of number system. As humans, we like to use base 10 because we have 10 fingers probably, and so like once we have 10 digits, 0 through 9, we add one more, we have to add a new place, the tens place. Binary is base 2. So you only have 2 digits to work with. You have zeros and ones all over the place. And so that means that's the number for 0, that's the number for 1. You've run out of digits after the number 1, so to make the number 2 in binary, you need a new place. This is the number 2 in binary. It's 1, 0. It has to be. Okay? And so you can expand this, you can make larger numbers, and you can do all of math with binary if you want to, and that's what your computers are doing. Okay? Well, there are ways to make it a bit more easier to understand as humans. You can start adding letters if you want. We can do that too. But all this stuff was invented by Gottfried Wilhelm von Leibniz, and I'm sure you've heard of that name before if you're taking a calculus class. So this dude also invented calculus as well as this fun stuff. Okay, so that is the start of this in the 1700s, definitely laying the groundwork for computers, because everything that a computer does is a bunch of high and low voltages, which is just ones and zeros all day long. It's all done in binary. Okay, the first thing that could be probably considered to be like a real computer, something that can be programmed, was formulated back in the early 1800s by a man named Charles Babbage. He came up with an idea. He didn't actually build it. Like, he came up with the schematics for it, for something called the analytical engine, and somebody built it later. But what it did was it had a bunch of cranks and tools and things that you could program this machine, and it could do arbitrary computations for you. You could put in, like, hey, I want you to do these things. I'd like you to add these numbers called x and y. I'd like you to save it somewhere called z so I can use it later. And then the next thing I want you to do, Mr. Machine, is to take the square root of this number that I built up. Take the square root of that z. And then, I don't know, I'd like you to like turn the cranks so that you can display that value of z that I've taken so much effort in calculating. Show z to the world. So I can write it down on my paper. And that's the computation that I was trying to do. So this is just, you could arbitrarily program this to do these things in this order, and that's a program. It's like, do these steps, to do these exact things in this order, and the analytical engine was capable of doing those things. So this is like the very first mechanical, real computer, I would say, called the analytical engine. And with the first computer comes the first programmer. So actually, the person who was working with Charles Babbage, his partner, her name was Ada Lovelace. Full name, Augusta Ada King, Countess of Lovelace. So she was royalty. She just has the coolest life ever, but she was the very first computer programmer because she created this program. It was a program to compute the Bernoulli numbers, if you've heard of those from like a statistics or a math class. She came up with the method for taking this machine, giving it the proper instructions in the proper order to compute these special numbers. Okay, so Ada Lovelace was the very first computer programmer, which is really cool. And also, extra cool stuff about her life. I want her life. She was I'm sure you've all taken English classes before. Have you all heard of Lord Byron? Like you've read some of his works, maybe? Or you've at least heard the name. She is the one legitimate child of Lord Byron. And she had plenty of other illegitimate children. So that's just a fun Wikipedia page to read through. But Ada Lovelace was the very first computer programmer. Wonderful. And again, shout out if you have any questions about this stuff. We'll probably go through several of these things, like binary, for example, in a lot more detail. But this is just a little sneak peek, just to see where we've come, how far we've come. Okay, next we have something called Boolean algebra, which is going to be very, very important. It's a way of manipulating ones and zeros. Okay, so ones and zeros can also be thought of, in addition to numbers, as just the idea of true and false. Like true is 1, false is 0. What can we do with that? We can combine them in certain ways. Like, hey, I got 2 numbers. Are they both 1s? This is a special operation called AND. It's the AND operation. And yes, the answer is 1 if they're both 1s and 0 otherwise. And again, 1 is true, 0 is false. And so you can make some very large diagrams. These are called circuit diagrams that use Boolean algebra to combine true and falses, a bunch of trues and falses, as much as you need to compute some output. And this was all invented by a man named George Boole. And this forms the backbone of our computers. These are called circuit diagrams because you can build real electronic circuits that perform these computations. And if you build up enough of these, you can do addition. If you build up enough of these, you can build a computer. So that is really, really exciting. We'll learn a little bit about that in this class. If you're really interested, you'll have to wait until CSCI 45. But that's Boolean algebra, ways of combining trues and falses, which are just 1s and 0s at the end of the day, to make some interesting computation done. Any computation that you can do is capable of being done with Boolean algebra plus a little high and low clock signal inside of a computer. That's all a computer is, really. So that is Boolean algebra. This is all mathematical, mechanical. Nothing has been electronic yet that we've talked about. A lot of stuff happened before all that. Next, 1936, pre-World War II era, we have Alan Turing studying at Princeton. He came up with something called a Turing machine. Maybe you've heard of that before. Very, very, very famous man. Very, very sad life. The British government did some horrible stuff to this guy, unfortunately. But what Alan came up with was the idea of a Turing machine. It's a way to mathematically model everything that a computer could possibly do. It's a way to model computation. How any computer ever invented or ever will be invented does its work. So it's able to talk about, just in math form, what a computer can do, and that was very important. It's the first ideas about those things. So a Turing machine is a way to model computation. Any program that a computer can execute is modeled in terms of a Turing machine. You can always bring it back down to this level. And it's a very simple thing, so it's very easy to prove stuff about it. Okay, so a Turing machine is very important. Go to the Wikipedia page if you're interested, but it's got some memory. It's got some memory, some instructions, like a recipe of what to do, and then it manipulates its memory in certain ways, and you can encode anything that you want to do, like, I don't know, calculate the square root of 2 or something. But that was very important, so now we can prove stuff about what a computer should be able to do, and prove our program's correct. It's pretty awesome. This was at the same time, this was all before a real electronic computer. Same year, over in Germany, we had Konrad Zuse, who made the first digital computer, so the first computer that was executing its instructions with electricity. It wasn't a hand crank anymore. The very first digital computer was called Z3, or maybe Z3 because it was German, right? Or maybe the British were saying that letter that way. But this was completely electric. It was the first one without any moving parts at all. And the way that it encoded everything was binary. So it made its zeros and ones. It made, which is really just turn some signals off or on. That's what 0 and 1 meant inside of a digital computer. That's what it still means. And 0, of course, can mean false or true. All these things. Overloaded. Different kinds of definitions. Inside of a circuit, it's low voltage for false, high voltage for true, etc., etc. But this was the very first digital computer, all electric, sending signals, electrical signals through it to compute something. It's really, really cool. So back in the 30s, almost 100 years. Almost 100 years this has been around. Okay, that was the very first digital computer. And that's when things started like going crazy. We were able to build computers at that point. We all learned how to do it. But computers took up the size of a giant room. Like the very first computers that did anything useful would take up this entire classroom. And the reason for that was like they were all using these things called vacuum tubes, which were just so large that you couldn't really shrink down a computer very much. The thing that allowed you to shrink down a computer was this thing that a lot of people claim to be the greatest invention of all time, of mankind. It's called the transistor. Maybe we've heard of that before, but this was the thing that allows us to shrink down a computer and have them in our pockets. So 1947 is when this was invented. It was invented at a telephone company because they had a crazy good R&D budget. Bell Labs. This is where that got invented. This is like the first transistor, very ugly, but they were able to make it better. Let me teach you a little bit about what a transistor is and what it can do. It's just an electronic circuit piece. It takes some electricity, lets it flow through. It's got some inputs and outputs, and it does some cool stuff. So a transistor can do one or two things, depending on how you configure it, how you want it to do stuff. So a transistor can either amplify a signal, or it can function as a switch. Let me tell you about both. So I play guitar, so let me give you a guitar example. Maybe you know, does anybody know how an electric guitar works? We maybe played one before, an electric bass, something like that. So here's my best drawing of an electric guitar. Very small. It's got the strings, and you plug that guitar in, right, to some wires, and you send it to an amplifier, right? There's your amp back there. Boop. Something like that. There's your amp, and then it sends out the signal. That's called amplification. So a transistor can amplify a signal by, if you have a guitar, you have those little things at the base there called pickups, and they have magnets inside of them. When your strings vibrate, they generate magnetic flux, which sends a little small amount of electricity through this wire, and a transistor can pick it up and see like, oh, string vibrating. It can send that through the transistor, the signal, this very weak electronic signal, and amplify it so that you can hear it. And it can come out of the speaker. And that's one thing that a transistor can do. It can take some electricity and a tiny amount of, it takes your wall power electricity and a tiny amount of a signal that is electric, and it can amplify it, make it loud, make it cool. But actually, we don't care about that at all. That's not useful to us as computer scientists. That's the first thing that a transistor can do. The other thing that it can do is function as an electronic switch, and that's the more useful thing for us. That gives us digital electronics. So you send, your normal wall power through this thing called a transistor. It's a little box. And there's your output. Here's your wall power input. Here's your output. And there's a little tiny switch you can think of inside of this transistor. And it's powered by a very tiny amount of voltage, or a very tiny signal. If you give a little bit of voltage, that's a 0, and it keeps this switch open. And so no power flows from here to here. Okay, it's a switch. The switch is off if you send a 0. And if you send a 1, that means you're sending high voltage signal. That will cause this switch to close. And then the circuit will allow the power to flow through. Does that make any sense at all? It's just a way of electronically switching on power, on and off power. And you can do this very, very fast because this is just completely electronic. No moving parts at all. So that's the thing that we care about as computer scientists, because it's allowing you to then propagate ones and zeros in weird ways if you combine them in weird ways. Okay? And that's what allows us to make computers much, much smaller than they used to be. Okay, so that's the transistor. Probably argued to be the greatest invention of mankind of all time. Okay. We got that. Let's talk about the internet a little bit. Back in 1968, there was something called the ARPANET, which was the precursor to the internet. It was computers connected to each other for the first time. The first 3 computers connected to each other were all down here in California, actually, which is nice. And one of them was UCSB, where I went, which is fun. But, yeah, this was the start of the idea where, okay, let us use phone lines or something, some wires, to connect computers to let them talk to each other. That was only possible in the late 60s. Okay, so like, I don't know, the year before we landed on the moon, right? Crazy. And then, obviously, this started fanning out a whole lot more. Everybody wanted to be on the internet, on the ARPANET. All the colleges wanted to be on the ARPANET, and then everybody else got it too. Okay? So that was the precursor to the internet. We started linking computers up, allowing them to talk to each other through some wiring, through some protocols. All right? But still, pretty much back then, the only people who wanted a computer were large corporations who could afford to build them, because it was still very expensive. Even though transistors were smaller, they were still pretty expensive. Only towards the mid-70s did they start to become small enough and cheap enough to be put into commodity like hardware for people to actually go and use. So the very first personal computer, I would argue to be the Apple I. All right, it looked like this. They only made like 300 of them. It was really, really cool and advanced for its time. It was just a bunch of circuits together, finally, in a small case. Didn't run very fast, but it allowed you to write your own programs and not have to like go to some giant machine at a school to create things. It was really nice. So it was invented by the 2 Steves. Steve Wozniak was the man who actually invented the Apple I. He had all the electronic brains, and the person who like made it very famous was Steve Jobs over here, who marketed it to the world and got people to buy it. And then they started making the Apple II, which went crazy, and everybody bought it. And then Apple became like the most popular company back then. Everybody wanted to have Apple stock. So yeah, invented by Steve Wozniak, marketed by Steve Jobs, very, very famous. And now, suddenly, people start wanting computers in their house. That made no sense back then, but then it started slowly becoming mainstream. Okay, so that's essentially where I wanted to take us in terms of the history of computer science. I do want to just jump around a few different places because I've talked about the very first programmer, the coolest person in the world, Ada Lovelace, but I just do want to point out before we stop this little subsection that it wasn't a bunch of dudes inventing computer science. It really wasn't. Let me talk to you about some very cool people in the field, and I'll zoom in on them as well. Very cool women in the field. So the first that I want to talk about is very near and dear to my heart. Her name was Grace Hopper. And what she did is she contributed to the way that programming languages work and are laid out. Any programming language that you use these days are influenced by the programming languages that she wrote. And compilers, if you take a CSCI 40 class, you'll be forced to learn what a compiler is. And she made great, great advances in the field of compilers, and that was part of the field that I studied in grad school. So I love Grace Hopper. She also has a conference named after her. She was that famous. She was also the first person to use the word bug to mean software error. So the reason we say bug when we're talking about programs these days is thanks to Grace. Grace Hopper. Okay. We also have Sophie Wilson, who was very, very influential in designing the ARM computer architecture. Everybody's phones these days, and if you have a newer Mac as well, those all use the ARM architecture, which are nice and low-powered, or not low-powered, very power-efficient. And so the reason we have phones in our pockets these days are in part thanks to Sophie Wilson. We have Shafi Goldwasser, and I can't claim to know a whole lot about cryptography, but that's her field. And she was the Turing Award winner for her work in cryptography. The Turing Award in computer science is the Nobel Prize for that field. So you get $1 million if you win it, and Shafi Goldwasser won it in 2012 for her work. If you want to go and look up the kinds of things that she was involved with, I think the term is fully homomorphic encryption. The coolest thing ever if we can get it to be, like, if we can get that to scale, and I think people are slowly starting to get there. Very, very cool cryptographical stuff. We'll talk a little bit about cryptography later in this class as well. But not the extra cool stuff that she did. And then finally, this image floats around the internet a whole lot. Maybe you've seen it. But Margaret Hamilton was working for NASA, and she led the team of software engineers who created the flight software for the Apollo landers. So we went to the moon thanks to the programs that Margaret Hamilton's team wrote. And here she is standing next to, it's a very famous picture, she's standing next to a printout of all the code that they needed to write for the flight software, for the lunar landers. Really, really cool. And so I just want to highlight that computer science is not just a bunch of dudes, right? So that is the end of my history little lesson. Are there any questions before I move on to something slightly different? And that'll be the rest of it for the day. You all still good? Just a nice little relaxing history lesson. So now I want to, poison your mind or make you feel uneasy. Let's talk about ethics and social issues, because there are a lot of ethical issues in computer science. I think you can think of some very quickly off the top of your head, like piracy, ChatGPT, right? NFTs, all that kind of stuff. And we need to start learning how to think about that, and we have to go to philosophy to get those tools, all right? So I want you to start thinking about these questions. These are like the standard questions that you'd learn about when you're starting to learn about ethics in maybe a philosophy class. So if you've taken a philosophy class before, please help with the conversation. You'll help it go faster, or you'll help it be more exciting. So here are some questions to ponder. Is it okay to steal to feed your family? Could go either way, right? I have a feeling that if it really came down to it, a lot of us would steal to feed our family, wouldn't we? But some of us think that should never have to be a thing. Another question is, how much privacy should we have from our government, from the websites that we visit, etc., from the software that's on our phones, things like that? Do we have any right to that? Is it a bit of a gray area, etc.? Okay. Another very famous philosophical ethical question is it right to kill one person if it means you save 50? That's called the trolley problem. Like, you got 50 people laid on a railroad track, you got one person laid on another railroad track. Will you flip the switch? Because right now the train's coming for the 50. Would you flip it to save the one person? These are ethical questions, and it's very weird to wrap your mind around a lot of them, and especially when I tell you that there is no right answer. If you're writing an essay about this kind of stuff, and I'm going to force you to do that in this class, I'll give you a good grade no matter which side you pick, as long as you argue your point well. That's what I want to teach you, how to argue. Okay? So you're going to make a lot of arguments about these kinds of questions in this class. And some arguments are better than others. We'll talk about what it means to be a good argument. Like, you want your argument to be sound. You want your argument to be valid. We'll talk about what these words mean. Want to make sure there's no fallacies in our arguments, things like that. Okay? But that's where we're going. And that leads us right on into our very first assignment in this class. And I'll go and release it to you right now. It'll be on Canvas. It's going to be this little quick mini essay due in like a week. I'll talk about it in just a second. But there it is on Canvas. If you want to look at it, I just released it. but I'll talk about it here. You're going to respond to the prompt that I gave you, and it is a very short essay. We have to write 6,000 words total. I'm starting us off very, very easy, right? I'm going to give you a 250-word mini essay. Do it 5, though, unless you have an extension. So it will be due January 17th. That will be next Tuesday. So a week and a day from now. Usually that'll be your essay due date. It'll be like a Tuesday in between classes, right? So the 17th will be when this is due, and here is your prompt. Respond to this in at least 250 words, right? Make some paragraph, maybe 2 paragraphs or something, one for each question. Just write it like you would write an essay. Is it okay to steal to feed your family? That's your first question. And your second question is it right to kill one person if it means that you'll save 50? You can come up with the exact scenario yourself, but those are your questions, okay? What I want you to do, because there is no right answer, is explain your thought process. Explain what you're thinking, why you're thinking the way you're thinking, why you say yes, why you say no, why you say maybe, okay? Mention why you don't agree with the other side's arguments. I want you to, if you're propping up the yeses, you need to knock down the nos, right? I want you to get experience with this. There is no right answer, but you have to argue your point in a convincing way. Okay? Pretend like you're arguing with your friends or something. You have to give reasons. Are there any questions about this? That'll be your first assignment. It's really not too bad. I want you to start arguing. All right? I want it to sound convincing. All right? So that's going to be your first writing assignment in this class. And for the very last thing for us today, I would like to put you into those peer instruction groups that I was talking about. So please, after I explain the question, I'll send you off, okay? So what I'm going to do is I'll take you back to this slide, or I'll take you back to this slide, and I will ask you to do this. Ponder this. Get into groups. You'll say hi to each other, like go say hi to the people next to you, and then you'll start working on this. Pick one of these questions on this slide and come up with 2 arguments for that question that you were talking about and 2 arguments against it. I want you to start thinking both ways. So answer yes and argue why, answer no and argue why. So arguments for and arguments against. All right, that'll start getting you in that habit of thinking about the opposite side to what you might think. Okay, so yeah, arguments for and arguments against. If you choose like the privacy question, you can assume that like for means yes, you like privacy. Against means you don't like privacy. And then you don't have to write these down today or anything, but just use your answers for your first essay and these kinds of ideas that you're coming up with. Okay, so please go off into peer instruction groups, say hi to the people next to you, form groups, and then pick one of these questions, come up with 2 arguments for it, 2 arguments against it, and then I'll bring us back. All right, take about 5 minutes. Take about one more minute.
What's the last one?
All right. All right, that was my timer. Let's come back for the last 5 minutes of class. I like the discussions that we were having. They were sounding great. So save those. Usually we're going to come back and discuss what you were saying for every other discussion that we have for the rest of this class. But this one was just to give you stuff to use in your assignment. So I hope that you found some helpful arguments. You can include those in your essay. Okay? Are there any questions about anything as we were discussing? Did anything come up that we want to talk about? Sounded good though. So yeah, that leads us to, there's not a whole lot of time left, but usually there will be a decent amount of time left. I like to end my classes a little bit, I like to end the lecture a little bit early. And the reason for that is I want to give you time in class to stay, ask me questions, work on stuff while I'm around when things might go wrong, just to help in addition to my office hours, because we're all forced to be here anyway, why not? And so that's part of the class. I'm not saying class is over and kicking everybody out. Okay, so of course if you've finished everything that's been assigned, you're free to go. But I want to use the remaining time up till, 5:15 that we have every day for you guys to stay here and work and ask questions. Okay, so that's how I want to run the class. So yeah, that is officially the end of lecture. Please stay and ask me questions about anything that you're wondering about. So thanks for coming.